So welcome to Lot 76 Cars and the fourth and final Bicester Scramble of 2022. Some brilliant cars here today. I'm going to show you those and also have the opportunity to interview a few of the owners. Hopefully you enjoy the video that follows. Thanks for watching. So I'm here with Jack of number 27 channel. I've followed him since the early days where I think you were going to turn over, was it one car a month?
Yes, that's right, 12 cars.
Plan, wasn't it? So you've slowed down slightly, followed the influenza, which has been entertaining at all. But perhaps you can tell us, particularly I think about the Bismarck.
Because they are just the last of the real solid sort of German tanks, you know, that Merc made. Everything is just built to last. And also they drive amazingly well. They're not sports cars, but they are really, really nice on the road, comfortable. They ride in a really sort of nice, solid way because they're stiff cars. But essentially this I bought and it had been rattle canned in RAF colours.
Lovely.
And it was, you know, it was a bit of a mess, and a Polish chap decided to do a tribute to the RAF squadron on it. And it was an imaginative project, but I thought I'll get it and I will rattle can it back one colour, you know, dirt black, something like that, and just, you know, quick easy project for YouTube and then get rid of it. Fortunately, once I got it, it usually, as happens, it just spiraled out of control, and before you knew it, I basically ended up doing a full respray, and actually not a bad one. I mean, I would say it's not as good as a professional shop that might have charged you £5,000–6,000, but it's not far off. There's a few little bits that need polishing and doing, but they're brilliant cars and still pretty cheap. And you know, if you want an old usable classic, I'd recommend one. Just make sure you get them checked because they're complex, their suspension and everything else, and so it means that, you know, if you get a bad one, it's expensive to fix.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now this is a rare one, an Alpha 177, bearing Aston Martin's own plates. That's a rare one. So the first car, bearing the name Invicta, a name that was pulled back from the past between 2004 and 2012. These Ford, American Ford powered British low volume sports cars called Invicta. I think this was the S1. You rarely see these, there are not many built. Built in rather greater numbers, the Elan S4s, a bit more practical with still those glorious pop-up lights and rear seats. Another beautiful example is this green one, and you can see the plate on the side showing all the Formula One championships that Lotus had actually won, Constructors' Championships. Next to this we've got a rather more unmodified Ferrari Dino. This time you can see with those standard Campagnolo wheels. That's a lovely car, isn't it? With those Fuchs alloys, be careful how you say that one. Porsche 911. And a modern twist is the sold out Yaris GR. The 3-door only, built for rallying and for homologation purposes. A Mach 1 Mustang, Range Rover, and that will be maybe a suffix C. It's certainly not that early because it's an R registered, so it's and the CSL M3. I think that was built only with the semi-automatic automated gearbox. And here we've got this lovely green E36 M3, and this is the Reboot Rover MG Heritage. Now this is a Renault 4 CV produced from 47 to 61 and the first French car to sell over 1 million units. Next I think we've got an Austin 7. We have, and very nice Porsche 964. A Rothmans liveried later, I think that's a 991. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, guys. Don't be afraid. My Porsche I Spy book I left at home. Later Boxster, and just walking past the more modern Mercedes and California. From the early days of Honda, chassis number 3 is this Honda Civic Mark 1 1200 from 1975. Beautiful condition. You may well have seen this on Johnny Smith's channel, and it's a member of the Honda Heritage fleet. So in the, I guess, maybe 50s, maybe 60s, these Austin pedal cars were relatively commonplace. Many have disappeared now, but thankfully we've got the guys here actually refurbishing these, with a few mods as well. That one's got some very nice wheels on it. So if you're not quite ready for the road and you don't have a license, then here's the option you've got of having something a little bit smaller. Badge 2000E is this very nice Coke bottle Cortina, so cool because of that sort of US influenced styling. With the twin headlamps, which I think came on the 2000E and probably the GXL as well. Is a Porsche 924. Now this particular car is, I think, an 82, and it's was actually came out from the factory with that colour scheme. I'm not sure about the tag Heuer badging, but certainly the colour scheme, it was mentioned on the note that it was wrapped to match. Next to it, I suspect that's a 924 turbo, looking at the vents in the bonnet. And for comparison, then we've got a 924 GTS. Helpfully, the number plate tells me what it is, which is handy. Now I'm sure that SD stands for Special Development, so there was a Rover SD1, and this is a Rover SD1, and behind it another one. This looks like a Vitesse, possibly. Nevertheless, this Daytona Ferrari influenced styling, I think the David back styling, really has stood the test of time well. Now we're just coming inside the Morgan workshop here at Bicester Heritage. Some beautiful examples. In fact, relatively new ones, a 71 plated, 21 plated car, and another 71. I guess these are all for sale at the moment. And it just shows you how little that design has changed over time, doesn't it? Sporting mini headlamps, somebody just said to me, possibly they're right, is this latest Morgan, I think it's the Aero fixed head coupe. An original Toyota AE86 Corolla rally prepared, glorious looking car with the TRD Toyota Racing Developments livery on that car. That's lovely, isn't it? Not too many of those left now. Where would we be without a Rover P6? This one's the S, so it's the manual. I think a manual gearbox and slight changes in the front cross member of the car to accommodate that. This lemon loveliness is a diminutive BMW 2002 from 1975. Looks like a UK car, right-hand drive. A VW T2 bus, and just arriving is a VW Corrado, based on the Golf chassis, and I think that's the Vultures. It may well be. So I've been lucky enough to be invited to the Scrambler's lawn, which is very nice. And before we grab a coffee, let's take a look at some of the cars here which have been pulled out from the main display. A Subaru P1 Impreza, unusual because it's the 3-door and officially sanctioned UK vehicle rather than one of a multitude of imports there. We'll also take a look at some of the others. We've got this Aston Martin DB4, I believe, may stand corrected, but this one's appeared on YouTube before because it's a well-used race-rallied car. We've got the Corvette Stingray, which is absolutely lovely. And next to it, I really like this one. It's TWR badge, but it's an Alpina, and it's the BMW 3 Series, the E21 to be precise. Struggling to bring that name to mind. Next we've got the slightly later in the, not one of the early cars, but it's one of the facelifted Esprits. Now I may well get this wrong. It's certainly clearly a modified Alpha Junior or GTV or GTV Junior. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but nevertheless, that's a lovely car as well. So making our way past the beanbags and under the canopy, let's take a look at what else is here. And we've got a lovely ex-works Hillman Imp rally car. That's absolutely lovely. So this one was entered in the 1965 RAC and the 1965 Scottish Rally and the 1966 London Gulf Rally. What a lovely car. And a Camaro SS. And just a bit further along are one of the so-called bat wings. Well, some of them were bat wings because they had the larger rear wings fitted. BMW 3-litre CSL with its sharp nose. Let's try and get a better look at that one. That's better. Hopefully you can see that okay. A lot of shadows with the sun here. And right at the start of the queue is a lovely Datsun 240Z. Modified and with a carbon bonnet. That's definitely not a period accessory, is it? Nevertheless, a very nice car. Now, whilst it's badged Austin Cooper Naked S, this little badge here means quite a lot. And what does that say? It says Radford. So we've got those built-in spotlights, driven by Beatles, driven by pop stars, and driven by film stars. Is this fantastic Radford Mini. Now the trick's around the back, so let's have a look. This is the trick part here. You see those hinges in the back window? What that tells us is that I think one of these was developed originally for Ringo Starr so he could fit his drum kit in. And yes, it's actually a hatchback. And a Ford GT40, so-called 40 inches from the ground. Is it an original car? Is it a replica? Who knows, who cares? But I still like it. I had the chance to speak to the owner of this MG VA, and it's a absolutely lovely car. He's driven here today with a friend of his called Runny Egg 996 Porsche Runny Egg Lights, so-called first of the non-air-cooled cars, water-cooled cars. And the VW behind, I think, is that a 411 with the rat look? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to put that in the text afterwards. There's so many of these 911s modified by Singer and others. It's difficult to know what's the original car and what's not. Nevertheless, this number 68 in green looks really, really lovely. Believe it or not, I actually learnt to drive in one of these. It's a Volvo 240, originally 244, because it was the 4-cylinder car, then later switched to 240. Lovely collection of Porsches, a later car and an early one, and just to finish it off, that's a stunning 635. I believe it's a 635 BMW anyway. Once commonplace but seldom seen are these Fiestas. This is a 92 J-plated car and it's a 1.4 gear, and definitely worthy of a place here. Great to see. The Michelotti styled Tran 2000. This one's got the full police kit on it. A joint cooperation with Porsche and VW is the Porsche 914. This is the 9146, denoting the 6-cylinder. Although originally I think it left the factory with a 1.7 litre engine, imported from the US and I think restored by the current owner. This low-riding VW T2 campervan probably deserves a closer look inside if you get the chance. Well, the door's open, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? Let's have a look. So the champagne is on ice. Well, not quite, but it's as beautiful inside as it is outside. Look at the Alcantara upholstery. Oh, that's absolutely stunning. Reclaiming it's young at heart, but slightly older in other places. Very nice. The MG Magnet, so looking at the non-date registration, I guess it must be pre-63 or late 50s. MGTF, the later reboot of the MGF with a different nose. A German registered 7 Series. And next to it, a Coventry registered, or his ex-factory car. It's a later XJS. Relatively. We've got a Mustang, 60s Mustang, and then the iconic Honda NSX, developed partially by Ayrton Senna. Now there's so many lovely cars here today, like this Focus RS. It's difficult to try and capture them all in. I'll try and do the best I can. Now a lot of these cars mean quite a lot to their owners, that personal connection, and I guess many of us who learn to drive in metros, like me, I learned to drive in a BSM Metro, have got fond memories of these cars. Not so this is a Series 2 Jaguar E-Type. It's the 2+2, not always as loved as the Coupe or the Roadster, but certainly a bit more practical day to day.
This W108 Mercedes has been lovingly restored by its current owner, including giving it the low-ride treatment, a full reappointing of the inside of the vehicle, and a Webasto sunroof. Doesn't it look lovely?
Just 5,700 of this Henrik Fisker designed BMW Z8 were produced. I think it had some starring role in one of the Bond films with a 4.9 litre engine or a 4.8 in the Alpina version. Really relatively rare, not so well received at the time because maybe it's retro connotations, but now worth reasonably big money, and I think actually for me it's a pretty car.
So apologies, I've had to overdub this as I lost the audio from sections of this film. This is the one-of-one Aston Martin Bulldog, designed to run at up to 200 miles an hour. Never quite actually achieved that. Built during the period of Victor Gauntlet's reign at Aston Martin, and now restored by his son to its former glory. What a magnificent machine it is.
Around 1,700 of these Bedford Green Goddess fire engines were produced for the auxiliary fire service between 53 and 57. Some of them basically went into storage. In fact, many of them went into storage and actually only came out in some instances in the 70s to help out with national fire strikes and also emergencies. I think some of the long hot summers and a lot of fires like we had recently this summer. Rarely is walking around the car park as interesting as coming to Bicester Heritage, walking past some of the new Exotica, to a Mark IV Escort, very nice Alfa Romeo GTV, or a seldom seen Peugeot 309. MGF, Lancia Fulvia, that's nice, isn't it? An 89 MR2 or midship runabout two-seater Toyota. That's a lovely example, isn't it, in white. This looks like a non-Quattro B2 coupe, if I'm not mistaken, next to a very nice E30. And this is one of 39 produced. It's a 1955 Lagonda 3-litre drop head coupe, a 72-73 TVR Grand Tourer, next to a very nice G-plated, well in fact no, it's not G-plated, it's actually F-plated, isn't it? So that'd be what, 68 Mini Coupe. So this bookends the 260s. The white one is one of the first cars in the UK, which you can see there's got some gentle modifications on. It's a 74, and this 77-78 one, this 260, actually you might recognise it, appears on James May Cars of the People series, so have a close look at that one, check that one out online. So I'm just going to chat now with the owner of this 260Z. As I mentioned a moment ago, it was on James May's Cars of the People. So I talked to the owner, and your name is?
It's Tim.
Hi Tim.
Hi,
thanks
morning.
for joining us on Lot 76 Cars. Tell us about this car and how you came to get this 260Z and what you've done with it, please.
I got it through the Z Club. The chap that owned it before had it for about 7 years, 8 years, and everything had to be right on the car. And then he was invited to take it to James May and Damon Hill to take round. I think it was Alton Park at the time. That was 2016.
Wow.
When they were doing the series, the second series, Cars for the People. And it was up against an E-Type Jag, and it came out just slightly on top in terms of speed.
Probably better built, I suspect.
Yeah,
survived a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So the guy really looked after it, and anything that needed done to it, he got done to it. Then I took hold of it, and I've had it now for 5 years. And the only thing I've really done is the interior, which was pretty smart to begin with, but just needed some tidying up. So I'll show you. Do you want to see?
Yeah,
the
that'd be
interior?
great. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's take a look at the interior with the owner.
So a few of the things I tidied up is typically just where the choke is there. There's when you get a little crack in the console.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, and the stress sometimes with the choke can so that was there was a crack in that, so I sorted that out. And then just took out the whole of the interior and just cleaned everything up basically.
Oh, wow.
And redid all the badging and all the chrome on the.
But it did survive pretty well. It was just a question of sort of renovating.
Yeah, it was just very minor stuff, very very minor. So there was no major damage, but it was just to get everything back to its original pristine condition, and then things like. All the little bulbs, the 3-watt bulbs inside the dash, over time they blacken, so you get.
And you can upgrade them with sort of more modern bulbs these days, I guess. Or
yeah, you can change them over to LEDs, but I just got the original bulbs, and because they're not black, they're slightly brighter. So I just like the cars being. I tried to imagine what it was like when you took it out of the showroom.
yes,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, sympathetic maintenance and adjustments.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
fantastic! Thank you very
No,
much.
you're welcome. No,
Thank you
nice
for
to
talking
meet
to
you.
us.
Yeah,
Cheers.
you're welcome.
Thanks. Bye bye. Again, the car park's proving to be a good source of classics. Here we've got a lovely Porsche 928 with those telephone dial alloy wheels, as I call them. A former car of the year. Incredible, a supercar, virtually, I suppose. Could be a car of the year. This nice old lady is a two-door Silver Shadow. I'm not sure if it's Corniche or is that reserved for the convertibles. I'll have to check. And here we've got a Triumph. I think that's a TR3A. Looking at the grille, very nice XK. And oh, let's have a look at this. What's this next? I am utterly privileged to have the opportunity to film a Gordon Keeble. Now, one of 99 cars built. I think there was a final car built with parts, so maybe just over 100 cars or something like that. Built down in Southampton, a sort of UK built supercar at the time with an American engine. And actually one of these that got me interested was featured in an episode of Waking the Dead, believe it or not, where the clue was the emblem, which is the tortoise. Lotus XL, built with some Toyota parts in this generation. I think replaced the Eclat. Lancia Fulvia, early Porsche, absolutely lovely diminutive Fiat 500. No shortage of E-types, Series 1s, looking at the closed headlamps and those covers. Fantastic little early midget. The early Pagoda SL without its roof. Very nice MGB. An early or an imported Unos, a Beetle, and the list goes on and on and on. I think next year I'll just come and walk around the car park, guys. Absolutely amazing. Lotus Cortina Mark IIs, AC Cobra replica, I think replica, apologies if it isn't. Very nice colour combination, that Kermit coloured 75. And this Chrysler, what is this? This is not Barracuda, is it? But what could it be? Answers on a postcard. So here's another Ferrari. This is a Dino 308 GT4 later car, completely different concept, but still badged as Dino. An early Audi 100. And next to it, let's have a look what that is. It's an ISO Revolta. So ISO was a small Italian coach building company that I think mainly used American engines. ISO Griffo is the one I remember the most. Wow, this must be one of one. This is a rare pretty car, isn't it? I suppose some sort of echoes of Lamborghini Espada in terms of the rear styling. Great to see one here today. Built on the W123 platform is a C123 pillarless coupe. These are glorious. I really would like one of these. Using pretty much the same mechanicals as the Mark 1 Astra is this Mark 2. This is a facelifted version, so a BMW 2002. I'm not sure if it's a turbo, it's certainly got a turbo kit, and this is a Chevrolet Corvair.
And the Corvair is actually an infamous car because it was tagged as unsafe at any speed by the American campaigner Ralph Nader due to its rear engine and rear suspension layout that allegedly caused lots of accidents.
Now I'm guessing this car is a Ford Maverick, if that is such a thing. It's certainly got echoes of Mustang from the back. We've got a very modified Suzuki BRZ, the joint venture with Toyota, the GR86 and BRZ, a 625 CSI next to a very nice E28 5.7s. A little Ginetta, I guess from the 60s. And here's the last car made by Daimler before it was taken over by Jaguar, and the two companies merged together. It's the Sports SP250. It was called the Dart in the US originally, and then due to legal action by Dodge, that name had to be discontinued pretty quickly. And this is an Opel Commodore GSC. It looks like the Opel record-based coupe. I haven't seen one of these. It's a left-hand drive car, so it's certainly coming from another market. Now this is the Viva Droop Snoot Magnum, campaigned successfully by Jerry Marshall in touring cars, I believe. Very nice Aston Martin DB7. And this is a German registered Mark II Capri, left-hand drive in this lovely signal orange. That's a lovely car. Equally nice is this 94. On the move is this beautiful M3. Trying not to get run over by this gentleman. That's lovely. Sounds good, doesn't it? Bearing the AC prefix can mean it's probably a Coventry car, so may well be an ex-factory car, is this Talbot Sunbeam Lotus. Very nice Healy 100. I learned recently that these were built pretty much by Jensen. Another Series 1.5 E-Type, E30 Cabriolet, not the bow one but the full one. Chevy Corvette. Goes on and on, the list of cars here, doesn't it? AC and an R107 next to a very nice 924 Porsche. Now for a moment, let's take ourselves back to the 1970s with this fantastic 1100L Mark I Escort. It's got the dog bone front grille that everybody raves about. Nothing special in the day, supposedly, but these cars are so collectible. Car before it's owned by a subscriber, I think, Kevin. So shout out to you, mate. Car's looking lovely. That side profile can mean only one thing. It is, in fact, a Ford Sierra XR4i. So different side treatment with the unique side treatment, in fact, with the windows to the Cosworths. This is probably far rarer than a Cosworth, although it appears to have a slightly different front grille. It's not the Jaguar, but it's the Mark II Jaguar style, and it's the Daimler, but I think this is one with the 250 engine in, and I think that engine was unique and allegedly far better than the Jaguar equivalent. Now hub nuts here in spirit, if not in person, I think, with this GSA UK car, certainly because it's right-hand drive. You wouldn't miss that one in the car park, and I haven't. Very nice Dutch built, as they all were, Volvo 80. Now the badge might be familiar, but this De Wagen mit Profile, apologies to German listeners out there and German viewers out there, it's a BMW 700 LS Luxus. So it's a microcar, it's a rear engine microcar, and it's actually credited with saving BMW from financial ruin. It was BMW's last entry in the microcar market, and in actual fact after this they concentrated on what was called the new class, which is the larger car that I think eventually sort of spawned the 3 or 5 Series family. Unusual car, and certainly a pleasure to see one here today in right-hand drive form as well. And here's the rear engine 700cc engine, and a lovely 1965 rally paired Renault 8 Gordini, and a very nice Bristol, produced in small numbers, sold off the Kensington High Street I believe back in the day, owned by the secretive Tony Crook, I think it was. What an amazing car. Some people enjoying a fire engine ride. Might have a bash on that myself later. A very nice Mercedes S124, which is the estate. Now this is the limited production series, fabulous carbon fibre bodied Bentley Batua. Supercars, yeah, we've got a few around here. We've got an Aston Martin Virage, which I think was basically a rebodied V8, though I could be wrong. I think Ian Callum might have worked on that, not sure about that one. Followed by a Noble. I think Lee Noble built these, and in limited numbers were produced. A snip at £72,000 is one of 24 right-hand drive 412 GT manuals produced. Very nice. A Lotus Esprit V8. This is Lotus's own V8 engine, I believe, and this is the later Peter Stevens redesign with the softer edges. Very nice Renault Alpine, just manoeuvring there. Produced in relatively limited numbers of just a few thousand cars per year is this Alfa Romeo 4C with a 1750 turbocharged engine, and I believe a largely carbon fibre chassis. Relatively rare to see these cars today, although they were produced not that many years ago, I think unveiled in 2013, but I've certainly not seen one at the shows I've been to over the last year for sure. So taking a walk down Supercar Alley, we start off with McLaren 570S, and there's this glorious yellow Lamborghini Gallardo. I'm not sure if it's the E-gear or the manual one. Ferrari 360 Spider, early Porsche 911, coloured Porsche 911, I think that's a 991, not quite sure, I'll be corrected if I'm wrong for sure. What a great day for seeing classic cars, meeting friends and enjoying like-minded nonsense conversations about classics we've had or we have. And look at the variants here. I think it's probably a Rolls Royce, I'm guessing a 2020 Rolls Royce, something like that. E-Type there. A Land Rover. And even, for tractor fans, we've got a little Ferguson for you as well. Brilliant. Now, opinions divided, but certainly you can't argue with the numbers on this one. So this electric converted Carman gear, the original car had a 0 to 60 of 25 seconds. It's not all about 0 to 60, it's now I think about 8 or 9. A fraction of the cost to run it as well, but what a car. Now, electric classic cars do divide opinion, that's certain. This 356 clearly has got the battery pack in the front, so they've retained the silhouette of the car, and it's a very nice restoration anyway. And then you've got what looks like the electric motor in the back, so it's sympathetic, it's packaged as it would be normally, but again, the jury's still out on these, isn't it? And here's an ex-Richard Burns 206 rally car. You don't see one of those every day, do you? And what a car this is, this Honda NSX leaving. Beautiful car. Now the dead giveaway is those eyelashes, yes. It's a Lamborghini Miura, Bertone designed, along with many cars in this area, the same theme. Also Bertone designed is this more humble but nonetheless pretty Skoda Favourite. Now this P1800 isn't badged S, so doesn't indicate that it was built in Sweden. Probably it was one of the early cars built by Jensen Motors on the contract. Now a somewhat controversial car in Jaguar's history is this XJ220, originally shown and customer deposits taken as a V12. Ultimately the production vehicle was I believe a V6 twin turbo. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Nevertheless, relatively low numbers of this car built, and to be honest with you, becoming more and more collectible. This immaculate Volvo C70 convertible, I think it was built by Valmat or something like this in Finland, and I think designed by TWR, Tom Wilkinson Racing's design studio. And for those fans of the Citroën Ami, check out in more detail Modern Heroes channel, but this is one of the first Amis I'm seen, so I'm going to try and get a close-up look at this if I can in a second. So just going to take a seat in the Ami.
Oh. Thanks for letting me have a sit.
Pleasure, no problem.
Actually, there's a fair bit more space here. The pano roof, you pay a lot for a pano roof in a car, and this one's got one as standard, hasn't it? It's got the windows that just flap up. Clearly not a huge amount of space in the back there, but there is a version that does have the passenger seat removed. Actually, to be honest with you, it's more realistic as a day-to-day transport, and there are some places I guess that you would rather have this than a Boris bike, as people have said to me. What an interesting, innovative little car. Very nice Mark 1 XR2 Fiesta. Next to De Tomaso Pantera. It's got the Gear badge, so I'm assuming this was styled by the Gear design studio. Gear, a brand that's associated for many years with Ford. Next to a full house rally car, a short wheelbase Audi Quattro Sport. And I'm not sure what's going on with the Audi Sport logoed Yaris, but there you go. And finally, VW have turned up with a very lightweight XLR7. Look at that streamlined car. I believe these were available but not sold in huge numbers. And here's a 1955 Aston Martin DB24, presumably the 4's the four-seater.
Towards the final days of MG Rover, they launched a rebodied Quivali Mangusta, basically fully and comprehensively redesigned by Peter Stevens and using Ford Mustang mechanicals. It wasn't particularly successful, sadly, and just 82 units were produced over its short life. In 1986, Turin Motor Show is the Rover CCV, the name standing for Coupe Concept Vehicle. It was actually designed by Roy Axe, who actually also designed the MG EXE and does bear some similarities to that vehicle.
So I've got a video coming out on the Suzuki Jimny in a short while, hopefully. This is a lovely lime yellow one. I'm not sure it's called electric yellow or something like that. It's got very cute Mini-Me, and I'm presuming that Japanese script says something other than chicken chow mein, who knows. So these are sold in Japan still as the Suzuki Jimny Sahara, but as a passenger vehicle, actually now out of production in the UK, can only be bought as a commercial vehicle due to emissions regulations. But now, probably now the bottommost rung of the Ferrari ladder that we could all aspire to get on is the Ferrari Mondial, a practical four-seater, and not necessarily the most expensive at the moment, but like all Ferraris, eventually they do seem to go up in value. This Saab 9.6 is going to tell us a bit more about it. It looks like it's a 64 on a B.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
And can you tell us, it's a left-hand drive car?
It is. So I found the car in Sweden
It's one lady owner from New, and it was her grandson that was selling the car. He'd moved to Oslo, and so he couldn't really justify keeping the car anymore, but it's done just over 30,000 miles and recently finished doing the restoration. The interior of the car has not been touched because that was absolutely perfect as it was, but the outside needed doing, and we've refreshed everything, rebuilt the engine and gearbox, and that's what you see now.
And you wanted a car specifically from Sweden? That's where you went, or you? Sorry, Norway, was it?
Sweden.
Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted it from Sweden specifically?
Not specifically,
no?
but.
Oh, collection. So
yeah.
It's not possible just to have one, is it?
No, it isn't. It's one of those things. Saab people tend to have Saabs that grow into families of Saabs and so on.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the owners invited me to sit in this Saab 9.6. I've never done that before, so this is going to be oh wow, look at those dials, that sort of Baker-like type steering wheel, the controls, that looks like the choke in the middle, then we've got temperature controls. Well, you're not overruled with the instruments, you've got the main things: fuel gauge, temperature gauge, lovely little clock, and I suspect there's quite a fair bit of room in this. It's got seat belts in the back, and it's got quite a bit of room there. And here's the 850cc two-stroke engine. So thanks for joining me today at my first Bicester Scramble, and I hope you've enjoyed the cars that I videoed, the interviews with the owners. I hope you found those interesting. As always, please like, share, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.